This is continuing coverage of United States versus Sean Diddy Combs from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.
All right, picture this. You're at your job and your boss asks you to pick up some office supplies. Normal Tuesday, right? Now imagine your boss is Sean Diddy Combs and the shopping office supply list includes baby oil, Astroglide, and enough candles to light up a medieval cathedral. You know, like the boss asks. Or you can also coordinate with some male escorts while you're at it. Please add that to the list. We want you to do that with the candles and everything else we need you to get some of the male escorts as well. Another day on the job in the land of Sean Diddy Combs. Welcome to the allegedly twisted world of Kristina Khorram, the woman who spent 11 years as Diddy's chief of staff and is now being called his very own Ghislaine Maxwell. Yeah, we are going there today. Love to hear what your thoughts are in the comment section on YouTube. Be sure to press subscribe wherever you're downloading podcasts so you don't miss any of our coverage on this case or the many cases that we cover for you. Search us on YouTube, Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi, so you don't miss any of that. Press subscribe, YouTube, wherever you are. Okay, so here's where we start. June 2025. We're breaking down who this person is. Federal courthouse in Manhattan. Witnesses are spilling tea so hot it could melt steel beams about what really went down in Diddy's empire. And one name keeps coming up over and over again, Kristina Khorram, or as she was saved in various phones, KK. Cute nickname for someone allegedly running a criminal enterprise logistics department, don't you think? Kristina Khorram wasn't some random assistant who stumbled into darkness. This woman had a business degree from NC State, spoke fluent French, and had worked at Burberry, Paramount Pictures, and AOL before joining Bad Boy Entertainment in 2013. She was 37 when the Fed started closing in, which means she spent her entire 30s allegedly helping orchestrate what prosecutors are calling a decades-long racketeering conspiracy. Some people have quarter-life crises and get a tattoo. Khorram allegedly got into interstate drug trafficking and possibly human trafficking. Who knows? It's all the allegations that we're looking at here. The most damning testimony comes from this wild night in March of 2016 at the Intercontinental Hotel. Cassie Ventura, Diddy's girlfriend at the time, we all know what we're talking about here, was trying to leave. Diddy allegedly went full psycho, chasing her down the hallway and beating her. Whole thing caught on hotel surveillance cameras. Now, a normal person might think, oh shit, we're in trouble. But according to the security guard who testified, Khorram's response was essentially, how much for the tape? This security guard, Eddy Garcia, told the court that Khorram called him repeatedly after the assault. She allegedly showed up at the hotel lobby like some kind of fixer from a mob movie. And here's where it gets really Netflix documentary worthy. Garcia says Khorram arranged a meeting where Diddy handed over $100,000 in cash for the surveillance footage. $100,000 in cash. And they were buying a small house in Ohio, not covering up a felony assault. Garcia had Khorram saved in his phone as Eddie My Angel, which is either deeply ironic or suggests this wasn't their first rodeo together. The prosecution argues this shows a pattern. Khorram wasn't just randomly helping out in a crisis. She was allegedly the go-to person for making problems disappear. The Olivia Pope of Bad Boy Entertainment, if Olivia Pope specialized in criminal conspiracies instead of political scandals. But wait, it does get better. Or worse, depending on your perspective. Multiple witnesses testified that Khorram was essentially the party planner for what prosecutors called freak-offs. I've planned some parties in my day. I've dealt with caterers, DJs, and that one friend who always drinks too much. But Khorram's party planning allegedly involved booking hotel rooms, coordinating with escort services, and making sure there were enough supplies for events that could last for days. Days. Most people can barely make it through a 3-hour wedding reception. One assistant testified that Khorram would give him a shopping list that sounds like it came from the world's sketchiest Costco run. Candles, liquor, baby oil, and Astroglide, all purchased with corporate credit cards, because apparently even alleged sex trafficking operations need to keep receipts for tax purposes. The IRS doesn't play, even if you're allegedly running a criminal enterprise. The drug stuff alone would make your average suburban mom clutch her pearls so hard they'd turn to dust. According to testimony from someone identified only as Jane, because of course there's a Jane in the story, a lot of them, a lot of Jane Does, Khorram allegedly gave instructions on drug trafficking like she was teaching a cooking class. Just put it in your checked luggage, and supposedly said that transporting drugs from LA to Miami, ma'am, most of us are stressed about whether our shampoo is under 3 ounces, and you're allegedly giving tutorials on interstate drug trafficking. Producer Lil Rod Jones really went for the jugular in his lawsuit, calling Khorram the Ghislaine Maxwell to Sean Combs' Jeffrey Epstein. Now, that's a comparison that'll follow you at every job interview for the rest of your life. Try explaining that one on LinkedIn. Skills include event planning, executive assistance, and allegedly facilitating sex trafficking. References available upon request. But the comparison is particularly spicy because it suggests Khorram wasn't just following orders like some helpless minion. The allegation is that she was an active participant, a true believer. The Robin to Diddy's allegedly criminal Batman. She supposedly required employees to carry fanny packs filled with what sounds like a DEA evidence locker, cocaine, GHB, ecstasy, marijuana gummies, and something called Tukey. I had to Google and immediately regretted that one. Another assistant, Philip Pines, claimed in his lawsuit that Khorram put him in charge of something called the MVP bag. When I hear MVP, I think most valuable player. In Khorram's alleged world, it means a bag full of drugs and sex toys for Diddy's parties. Pines also said that when he witnessed Diddy kick a woman, Khorram told him to never speak about it because there would be repercussions. Nothing says healthy workplace environment like witness intimidation, am I right? The text message that prosecutors got from Khorram's phone are like reading the world's most incriminating group chat. In November of 23, she's texting Diddy saying, "If you cannot be honest with me, this doesn't work," which suggests that even in their allegedly criminal partnership, there were trust issues. It's hard to run a good racketeering conspiracy when people aren't communicating effectively. They should have tried Slack. December of 23 brought some spicy texts with Jane informing Khorram that Diddy was threatening to expose sex tapes. So Khorram allegedly knew about the blackmail tactics and did what exactly? According to prosecutors, she kept on keeping on, coordinating and facilitating like the world's most problematic executive assistant. What really gets me is that Diddy publicly thanked the woman at the BET Awards in 2022. He called her his right hand and said she keeps his world twirling. That would be a world that was apparently twirling right into federal indictment. But hey, at least she got a shout out on television. It's going to be about, as well as Bill Cosby's pudding cup commercials have aged. Here's the kicker on this. What really makes this whole thing wild, Khorram hasn't been charged with anything. Despite all this testimony, despite being named as the unindicted co-conspirator, despite witnesses pulling her and putting her at the center of basically many alleged crimes, she's walking around free as a bird that deleted all its social media and went into hiding, but still technically free. The prosecutors won't even call her to testify, which has legal experts scratching their heads like they're trying to solve a particularly difficult world. Some think she's too risky as a witness because she might help the defense. Others think she'll plead the fifth faster than you can say interstate racketeering conspiracy, which takes a little bit of time there. Or maybe, and this is a maybe, it's my favorite theory, they're saving her for her own special indictment party later. Maybe. Nothing says delayed gratification like waiting to charge someone until after their boss's trial wraps up, which does happen quite a bit. Former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani, who's been on our show many times, pointed out that being an unindicted co-conspirator is like being in legal purgatory. You're not charged, but you're not clear on any of this either. You're just floating there, waiting for the other shoe to drop while the former life you had burns to the ground around you. Her 2025 statement through her lawyer was a masterclass in saying nothing while seemingly saying something. Quote, I have never condoned or aided and abetted the sexual assault of anyone, nor have I ever drugged anyone. Cool. But what about the alleged drug trafficking, witness intimidation, and obstruction of justice? That statement has more holes than Swiss cheese at a shooting range. The lawyer also said she can't tell her story until the criminal trial is over and the civil cases are resolved, which would basically be never. Which is basically lawyer speak for, we're not saying shit until this is all done. Anything that could be used against us later, we ain't talking. Smart move. I mean, legally speaking, it is. Terrible move if you're trying to convince people that you're innocent. The question everyone's asking is, will she flip? Will Khorram eventually decide that loyalty to her former boss isn't worth potentially spending decades in federal prison? Maybe she already has. Let's be real. Even if half of what these witnesses are saying is true, she's looking at serious time if they decide to charge her. RICO conspiracies aren't like jaywalking tickets. The feds don't play around with organized crime, even when it comes dressed in designer suits and speaks fluent French. As we wait to see what happens next in the saga, one thing is very clear about this. Kristina Khorram's story is a cautionary tale about what happens when ambition meets immorality. When keeping your boss's world twirling means allegedly facilitating crimes, maybe it's time to update your resume and find a new job. Hey, guess when you're making chief of staff money and flying private, it's easy to ignore the facts that you're allegedly helping run a criminal enterprise. The most ironic part of all this, Khorram spent over a decade allegedly helping Diddy avoid consequences for his actions, and now she's facing the very real possibility that those same actions will destroy her own life. The company you keep, right? She kept his world twirling. All right, twirling right down the drain of a federal investigation. So what's the lesson here? Maybe it's that no job is worth your soul. Maybe it's that the feds always get their man or woman. Maybe it's just that if your boss asks you to coordinate sex trafficking and drug distribution, you should probably polish up that resume and start looking elsewhere. As for Khorram, she remains in limbo, an unindicted co-conspirator in a case that's shaping up to be one of the wildest trials in entertainment history. Will she be charged? Will she cooperate? Will she maintain her innocence while Rome burns around her? Only time will tell. But one thing is for sure, her days of keeping anyone's world twirling are officially over unless that world is a federal courtroom, in which case, buckle up, KK. This ride is just getting started. What are your thoughts on Miss Khorram? Clearly, if you're that close to the sun, you're getting burned. And I'm guessing there's a lot of burn marks on her. And burn marks on others that had she not been involved, may not be there, allegedly. Should she get that plea deal? Should she get that deal where she can run scot-free for giving up her information? Or should she just have to pay her price for basically selling her soul, knowing these things were going on, and continuing down that road to get that paycheck and that lifestyle? Tell me in the comment section what your thoughts are on YouTube. Let us know. If you're listening to our podcast on another platform, press subscribe so you don't miss any of our coverage of this and the other cases we got for you right here. If you're listening to us on the Downfall of Diddy channel, hey, we got other cases. We got other places that we are covering for you. Just search Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi wherever you get podcasts or on YouTube as well, to get in on the comments and everything else that we put out here for you on video. Interested to hear your thoughts on this one. Until next time, my name is Tony Bruschi. We'll talk again real soon.
Want to stay on top of the latest true crime cases? Press subscribe now and never miss a breaking update from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.